Hello friends, we're continuing with our Rays and the Initiations webinar commentaries, and we're on program 18, 387 of this book, and remember it's on part 2 of this book. We've been talking about the various ashrams and how they came into being and the order of their presentation, the great opportunities available at different historical periods, and the way in which Shamballa affects the great ashram, which is the ashram of which the Christ is what is said to be the head. He is the director, the coordinator, but Sanat Kumara is the great inspiration there. Since that time, let's see what that time is. Divine, etc. When the Christ achieved this, he was deemed worthy of embodying in himself a new principle of evolution. He was revealing cosmic love. He had touched the cosmic astral plane, and perhaps at the 7th initiation, we don't know, can the high initiate focus on the cosmic astral plane? Let's just say there is the repudiation of the cosmic physical plane coming at the 9th degree. Those are just words for us, but, well, we'll keep them in mind. So a new principle of evolution, and revealing to the world the nature of the second ray aspect, the divine principle of love. And it's the divine principle of love, not just the spiritual principle, as humanity calls it, or pure reason, as the hierarchy calls it. That's so interesting, the idea of pure reason. It sounds so very mercurial, so very mental, and yet pure reason, intuition, and love are all equivalent in certain respects. So at this point, we go on a little bit, and DK tells us that since that time, and that was the time in which the Christ acquiesced, to the will of Sanat Kumara, all the 7 major ashrams have been fully organized and are steadily increasing in radiatory activity. Well, fully organized. Perhaps they appeared before they were fully organized. Anyway, the Christ gave a tremendous impetus to this process when he sacrificially accepted the will of Sanat Kumara to be the Bodhisattva, I suppose, for 5,000 years, and to undertake the salvation of humanity as he was given to understand by the will of the Father in Shamballa. As you will have noted, the order of their appearance under ray activity was 2, 7, 4, 6, 5, 3, 1. And DK tells us, in giving this item of ashramic information, I am giving you more hints than you will immediately realize. I'm looking at some of the relationships here between the numbers, and they are a little bit abstruse. I'm seeing there's a strong Buddhic quality between the 2 and the 4, and the 7 and 4 are 2 Masonic rays, and I think the mysteries in Masonic form were important in the early days. Later it became Masonic form, what we recognize as Masonic form. The 6 and 5 are together allowing the transition off the 6th ray through the development of the mind, and from the 5 to the 3, from concreteness to abstraction. This makes sense. And finally, we end up with the destroyer ray, and it's interesting that in Esoteric Psychology 1, all the other ray lords ask the first ray lord to withhold his destroying hand until they have completed their work. And it's quite astonishing to see him at the end, the first ray lord coming in powerfully at the end, and that inspiration from Shamballa, where these focal points of ray energy are found, waits until all this other work has been done, and then the destroyer can enter. But he's more than just a destroyer. There is the building aspect, and the aspect that readies the outer form for bearing the full weight of the divine will, well, as much of the divine will as can be conferred. The great pairs of opposites here are the 2 and the 1, and they are the sort of the archetype of the opposites, and we begin with love, wisdom in the appearance of these ashrams, and we end with the ray, which will be making the transition into the next solar system, which will be under the first ray. But it's interesting that 7 does resolve to 1, and 7 is considered to be the concrete aspect of the first ray, and it is the second of the rays in order to come into manifestation through the ashram. So in a way, ray 1 is represented through the 7. Well, you know, I think we could ponder this a long time. It's interesting. The 4 and the 6 together can resolve onto the 2 or into the 3. So 4 and 6 are the 2 Atlantean rays. The 7 is very important in terms of the ritualistic life of Lemuria. We see in many of the ancient cultures. See, there's kind of a progression from well, how can I call it? From the stage which is Lemurian to Atlantean to Aryan. The 5 and the 3 represent the Aryan, and you kind of the 4 and 6 Atlantean, and the 2 and the 7. Well, the 2 is general. It just has to be there because the entire process of bringing in the solar angels and bringing and getting the soul aspect activated comes under the generic 2. But the 7, I think, represents Lemuria here. The 4 and 6, Atlantis. The 5 and 3, the Aryan times. And the 1 is sort of the resolution in synthesis of it all. So let's see here. The 2 and 7 have a particular connection with Jupiter. The 4 and 6 on the path of aspiration. The 5 and 3 on the path of accepted discipleship. And when you're looking at all this, you kind of wonder whether the formation of the ashrams does really span all of these root races. It seems to me that that 7 definitely came in. 2 and 7 definitely came in Lemurian times. When I'm looking at the 4 and 6, I do believe that the time of Atlantis was appropriate for the emergence of those ashrams. And, well, 5 and 3 fit so much with the Aryan quality. The 5 would come in the 5th sub-race of the Atlantean root race when initiation, which is usually conferred by the 5, the power to take initiation is connected with the 5. So the 5 might have come in there, but also it has so much to do with the 5th root race, the Aryan race. And of course, it's when the mind aspect can be quite fully developed that the will can make its impact. Because, you know, we have there kind of there's a progression there from the atmic aspect of, we're building towards the atmic aspect. We're building from the concrete mind, number 5, to the abstract mind, number 3, and then to the atmic aspect, which is of the first ray and where the spiritual will comes in. So I'm seeing all kinds of numerical relationships here. The thing that I'm not quite sure of is, you know, whether, to what extent the formation of these ashrams span the 3 root races. I mean, you know, do they all appear? Well, we know the point of focus within Shamballa existed from the very beginning. Those are the ray lords within Shamballa, and that type of focus does exist from the very beginning. But when did these focal points descend into that intermediate area and actually begin to create a hierarchical center conditioned by that particular ray? And of course, these would have been a descent at first to the higher mental plane, because the ashrams were all located on that plane and not, as they are now, on triadal levels. That is a relatively recent development. So when did this descent occur? And, you know, we have to have had soul ray types of all kinds, 4, 5, 6, and 7 especially, working from the very beginning. Okay, so 4, 5, 6, and 7, they are not exactly listed. I mean, in other words, every soul type would have been 4, 5, 6, or 7, and to the extent that there were personalities in those days, they would have had to have been 4, 5, 6, and 7 as well. But they were not yet ashramic material. So we don't necessarily need the cultivating ashram to bring those soul ray types along. Just the normal process of evolution would do it. We need the ashram when we're actually talking about training rising humanity to enter into that intermediate space we call hierarchy. Let's just see, when the path was possible for some, maybe there had to have been some ashramic training there. So the degree of the intensity of the formation of these ashrams is still a little up in the air in my mind. In one way, it looks as if they, from the hints the Tibetan has given, as if they are spread over the various root races. But from another point of view, we know that all the rays had to be present, and at least soul ray types 4, 5, 6, and 7 had to be present from the very beginning. Now, as a human being becomes an intelligent human being, and that we would expect more in Lemurian times, later Atlantean and Lemurian times, then it's possible for transferences from ray 6 and 4 to occur to ray 3, but there are no third ray souls to begin with. And when we approach initiation, well, again in Atlantean times, but more fully in Aryan times, then rays 2 and 1 can become the soul rays. And so is it possible, you know, that the ashrams, well, at least 3 and 1 are at the very end, but 2, because it is so generic, is at the beginning. Suffice it to say, we cannot have the first and second ray souls until we are nearing the time of the first initiation and we really have advanced man. More than simply intelligent man, the possibility of transferring onto the third ray soul comes earlier, in my view, than transference onto the second and first ray. And even some of those who have taken the first initiation on other rays, rays of attribute, are now, after initiation, in the process of transference. So I think that, you know, the really active work of certain ashrams of aspect with the disciples takes place later in the process. Well, okay, you know, one could write a paper on this or go deeply into the matter and even write a book on this. But for the moment, I've given out a few ideas and freely admit that there's a lot more here to be fathomed. So I think he's quite right. You know, I've given you more, he says, given you more hints than you will immediately realize. Yeah, I'm thinking in Atlantis there must have been a lot of 6th and 4th ray souls in that particular cycle. When it comes to a number of 5th ray souls, I think coming in from Vulcan, and maybe from some other places, maybe like from Mercury, coming in as primary lotuses, did not come in until Aryan times. Not even in Atlantis, so, and they certainly didn't come in Lemurian times. But monads on all of these rays were present, as far as I can see. There are very few first ray monads, and the majority coming in were on the third ray, especially in our particular schemes, Earth scheme, Mars scheme, and the Saturn scheme. But monads on these different rays were present. And if you read about the blessed ones in Esoteric Psychology 2, and I've already given some analysis of that in a little webinar series on the blessed ones, you will see that all of them, they descend into matter in a certain way, and they become lost, and they are subject to matter, each one of them, in a particular manner, and they have to find their way back. So it seems to me that that monadic types of the first, second, and third ray were all active at the very beginning of individualization on our planet. There were fewer third ray monads individualizing at that time, mostly second ray, and later in Atlantis, first ray monads came in force, but all of them were available, all the monadic types. And remember, it's still a question to be discussed whether there are 7 subsidiary monadic types relating specifically to the monadic plane, and 3 superior major monadic types, the first, second, and third rays, relating to the logoic plane. That's a theory I'm kind of putting forward, at least to be discussed until proven to be correct or incorrect. So anyway, we have this sequence, and it tells us something about the activity of early man and the gradual progression towards the realization of the divine will. I hate to leave the subject, realizing how much there is which which is unrevealed and unknown by me, at least. And so, I'm pretty tenacious when it comes to trying to exact knowledge from what is presented. Extract it is what I mean. But I will in fact leave it. Each ashram, as you know, expresses ray quality in its purest and most essential form, and that's especially from the major focus of each ray ashram. We might call it the 1 sub 1, the 2 sub 2, the 3 sub 3, and so forth. During the process of creating the 7 ashrams, they have shifted their focus or location from the lowest of the 3 levels of the abstract mental plane at each major crisis. That's interesting. Until today, the ashrams are to be found on the Buddhic level and not on the mental level at all, except for a few of we're called the more mental or scientific ashrams, still have a focus that's on the higher mental plane. But notice here that there's the possibility of the ashrams over a certain period of time, over a lengthy period of time, the ashrams could be found on all 3 levels of the higher mental plane progressively. So we begin with the lowest level, and that is the level at which the causal body of average man is found today. Not on the second level, where the more advanced human types and those who are undergoing initiation have their causal body focused, but on the lowest level. Let's see, over a lengthy period of time, the ashrams could be found on all 3 levels. And, maybe, although causal bodies, as far as I understand, do not move farther than the second subplane, and there take the 4th initiation, it's possible that the ashrams could be located on the highest levels. So anyway, onto the Buddhic plane, but not exclusively, because there are some first ray ashrams which are found on atmic levels, as I say, some strictly mental or scientific ashrams, which are found, I would say, probably on the highest level of the higher mental plane at this time. The levels of the abstract mind would be my understanding there. This marks the triumph of the hierarchical work because pure reason through the second ray, remember pure reason as love, as intuition, pure reason through the second ray is now the dominant quality of the ashrams. Okay, and I don't know, probably all of them, even if focused on the higher mental plane or even on the atmic plane, has access to pure reason. This I would guess to be the case. Okay, you know, obviously some speculation has to enter here because this is a very advanced book and we cannot know all that is given here, but we can respond with our ideas in relation to what is stated. So anyway, the intuitive quality, pure reason, is the quality, dominant quality in all the ashrams. And this tells us that the ashrams are certainly more in line with the great second ray now than they were during the time of their formation. Forget not in this connection that all the rays are sub-rays of the second ray of love wisdom, which, you know, as stated, this is the reason that the second ray ashram was the first to form, because ashramic formation is all about the second ray, essentially. Ashramic formation is about the second ray, essentially. That's its major purpose, to bring in the second aspect. But that in the early days of hierarchical activity, it was the particular quality of the ray which dominated an ashram that first demonstrated, and not the quality of the great major ray, of which they were all a part, even though the second ray was the first, the second ray ashram was the first ashram to form, so there the second ray dominated. But when the seventh ray, for instance, when the seventh ray ashram came into existence, it was the seventh ray, SVRY, that dominated, and only later did the pure reason of love wisdom come into expression. So that's interesting. In other words, the Ray Ashrams are becoming more synthetic. The Ray Ashrams have become progressively more synthetic under the synthetic love wisdom ray. So there is progress here, and the divine aspect of love is permeating these ashrams to a greater degree. Forget not in this connection that all the rays are sub-rays of the second ray of love wisdom, but that in the early days of hierarchical activity it was the particular quality of the ray which dominated an ashram. Okay, I just want to somehow highlight that. It was the particular quality of the ray which dominated the ashram that first demonstrated, and not the quality of the great major ray, of which they were all a part. That is a synthetic stage, and we are now reaching a synthetic stage of the ashram. As a matter of fact, I would say the formation of the new group of world servers is the result of the ashrams reaching a more synthetic stage together under the great ray of love wisdom. And that's what I think is happening. And that pretty much began at the time of 1925 or so, when the ashrams moved to the Buddhic plane. The majority of the ashrams moved to the Buddhic plane. So we are now in a very synthetic period. The Christ is returning. The great second ray soul of our planet is emerging more and more through the return of the Christ and his hierarchy. So we are in those times now. We are in those times which have long been foreseen, and against which all opposition is now unleashed to try to prevent this synthesis under the Christ impulse, the love-wisdom impulse. So everything that stands against that is being thrown at the growing Buddhic impulse. The servers come together in reflection of the ashrams coming more and more together. So I'll put it here, as the ashrams cohere more and more, the new group of world servers in reflection of that coherence can form. So we are living in somehow very important times, times when the human race is preparing for entry into the fifth kingdom of nature in larger measure than has ever been possible. You know, one or two or three, you know, singly and in small groups could enter, but now many millions will enter, and so it's an amazing period for us if we could simply look at the world and realize that the rising to the surface of so many terrible things is a sign of plutonic cleansing and healing before the new dispensation takes over, a dispensation under the Christ, under the second ray, when Satan, representing the lower three vehicles in their own waywardness, is bound for what is the period? It says 1,000 years. It's not literal, at least bound for a significant period of time, though the Black Lodge will not be defeated in terms of our planet until the Judgment Day in the middle of the fifth round. Well, anyway, today much is changing here. So today all this is changing, though the process is not yet perfected, and pure reason or true love is beginning to manifest itself through the quality of all the rays functioning through their respective ashrams. So think of that. It's quite possible to have the ray ashrams functioning, but not as pervaded or imbued with pure reason or true love, reflection of divine love of the cosmic plane. But now the rays, all the rays, are carrying the love, wisdom quality. Now all the rays are carrying the love, wisdom quality, not perfectly, but in process. The secondary ray quality will not die out or in any way be lessened, but each ray quality will serve to implement the expression of pure love, which has to mean that Christ, as the head of the ashram, is having, I call him the head of the ashram, of course. It is the ashram of Sanat Kumara, but he's called the head of the hierarchy. He must be having a tremendous effect upon all of the masters and all the Ray Ashrams to imbue them with this quality of pure reason or pure love. Love reveals and pure reason reveals. With pure reason we see things as they are, and love reveals things as they are. So the secondary ray quality will not die out or in any way be lessened, but each ray quality will serve to implement the expression of pure love, which is the essential and at this time the primary quality of the Lord of the world. Notice how he qualifies that. The rays of Sanat Kumara, what may they be? Well, he is the major example of the teaching ray and the major savior on our planet at the moment. So if SK is the expression of our planetary logos as an emanation, then his rays are monad 1, soul 2, and personality 3. And what we will have here now is the expression of the soul nature of Sanat Kumara. It's the soul of our planet, not the monad, which is coming more and more into expression. Remember, we as a planet are an initiate of the first cosmic degree and not yet the second cosmic degree. And we know how important at the second initiation is the incoming of the soul energy, transforming the astral body of any, let's say, human initiate into a vehicle increasingly of the love energy. So thus it would be by analogy for our planet. And it's basically the soul aspect of the planetary logos, hence of Sanat Kumara, that is coming into expression at this time, and that is the major expression for this second solar system, though later in the day some of the first ray will have to be coming in when our planetary logos becomes a sacred planetary logos and thus has access to his monadic ray. Okay, so that, I think, that's something that I didn't really notice so much before in my reading, that basically the great synthetic ray of love wisdom is imbuing all the Ray Ashrams and uniting them on the level of pure reason, and thus making it possible for the planetary soul to be expressed through all the ashrams. Okay, so it becomes possible through the mediation of the Christ for all the Ray Ashrams to express increasingly the quality, I don't want that, do I? Quality, the quality of the soul of our planetary logos, which is the second ray. All right. As the centuries have slipped away, the potencies of the rays has increased, and the potency of the rays has increased on Earth. Maybe what strikes me is overcoming the preeminence of the astrological energies, because the rays, in a way, are of a higher order than the strictly astrological energies. The rays pertain more to the expression of the second ray as a whole, and the astrological energies pertain more to the expression of the third ray as a whole. So it's as if the astrological qualities precede the expression of the ray qualities. And this is certainly so when it comes to a human being. You think of it, certain of the rays are just not available to man in terms of his ray chart in the beginning. Rays 1, 2, and 3 are not available. But through the astrological planets and the signs, those rays are mediated to man and can thus demonstrate, not in their fullest sense, but they can demonstrate somewhat. It's the astrological qualities which precede the fuller demonstration of the ray qualities, just the way the third ray, the builder of the foundation, precedes the fuller expression of the second ray. The foundation has to be built under the third ray before the expression of the second ray can fully occur. So anyway, as the centuries have slipped away and the potencies of the rays have increased on Earth, humanity has become more and more invocative. So, we are oriented towards the higher centers and call upon them for their energy. This has necessitated and sometimes this invocation is unconscious. It's inchoate. It's simply our condition which is invocative. And then sometimes later there's a deliberate invocation sent forth. Both are true. I think humanity as a whole, even though unconsciously, has become more invocative because their condition invokes. But also there have been those opportunities for deliberate invocation by those who know how to do so. So this has necessitated the expansion of the hierarchy itself, and, okay. So this means the formation of subsidiary ashramic groups. And each ashram has become the creator of 6 other ashrams, few of them as yet complete, and some completely embryonic. So interesting how this really comes to be, so that in fact all the 49 ashrams are in the making, though not fully formed, some entirely embryonic, maybe some in the same condition as the ashrams were before the centers of energy in Shamballa descended to activate the ashrams. So a similar condition may exist with the activation of the 6 subsidiary ashrams. For the second ray, they are quite activated, and he's going to tell us about this. And so it's because of humanity's increasing invocative nature that the subsidiary ashrams had to be activated to deal with the variety of human beings on the different rays. Okay, so the subsidiary ashrams had to be activated to deal with the variety of human beings on the different rays and subrays. So there's greater complexity, and they had to be dealt with in specialized ways. So that, in fact, all the 49 ashrams are in the making. And here is the place where he tells us about which are which. The second ray, for instance, has 5 affiliated lesser ashrams, and one of which only the nucleus exists. And, you know, we have to say, well, which is that? Is it on the first ray? Well, we would have a reason for saying so, because if you look at the order of the ray ashrams as they emerged, the first ray emerged last. Well, you know, that's a very strong wisdom ashram, wisdom subsidiary. And it seems to relate very much to the Buddha, but Buddhism is so tremendously spread and developed that maybe that first ray is there. Although the 2 sub 3 could bring in a lot of Buddhism as well. The 2 sub 2 is the main second ray ashram, over which Master Chohan K.H. Presides, and this would be more the pure Christ line, the line of pure love and pure reason. So, so there is one of which only the nucleus exists, wherever this nucleus is held, just the way the nucleus of the greater ashram was held in Shamballa until it was time for that ashram to emerge. I think we can see that, you know, there's so much more planetary history for us to understand. I mean, the secret doctrine has given us quite a bit, but nothing of the detail that would clarify our understanding of the emergence of these different ashrams. Maybe Master DK gives that to us a little later, you know, when we can really use it. So the second ray, for instance, has 5 affiliated ashrams, and one of which only the nucleus exists. Is it on the first ray? The 5th ray subsidiary seems to be emerging with all the consciousness studies. I think the 3rd ray subsidiary, I think, is presided over by Master DK, and is the kind of thing that's behind these writings of the blue books, which have as well so much of the 3rd ray in them. The healing ashram on the 2nd ray, I think, is very much there. The New World Religion ashram is very much there. What about the 4th ray? You know, love expressed through beauty and the arts. That might be another candidate for the one of which only the nucleus exists, maybe. And we have the great 4th ray emerging in its monadic aspect starting from 2025, and maybe this would emerge more, you know, using beauty as the means of teaching truth and inspiring love. But of course, the arts in a way have been doing that, and the entertainment industry producing many fine films have evoked love in the viewers. And so even from the time of the Greek tragedies, it could be that the 4 and the 2 have been cooperating. So my guess would be the 4 or the 1 that for which only the nucleus exists. And all these are working under its inspiration, the inspiration of the 2nd ray, and through the effect of the 2nd ray central fire. The 2nd ray, for instance, has 5 affiliated ashrams, and one of which only the nucleus exists, and all these are working under its inspiration. And through the effect of the second ray. I wonder if this is a hint. Only the nucleus exists, and all these are working. In other words, working on the inspiration of the nucleus does. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to put this here. Does this say that all the subsidiaries are working under the inspiration of that coming ashram for which only the nucleus exists? The reason is, the reason for this question is that ray 1 is the, let's call it the ray of inspiration. The word inspiration, you know, the breathing in of fire and so forth, relates directly to the first ray. Well, and through the effect of the second ray central fire, is it possible that the first ray aspect here is inspiring all these other subsidiary ashrams? Of course, from another point of view, if you look at this sentence, the second ray has 5 affiliated ashrams, and all of them are working under its inspiration. So, you know, it's probably the second ray, although I think it is the second ray rather than the first subsidiary ray. But we're told, you know, in Dina 2, around page 518 or so, 517, 518, that the Buddha on the second ray is associated with the first sub-ray of the second ray, and he has inspired such a religion, such a way towards divinity, that many millions have worked as the Buddha has worked. So have they worked on the first sub-ray of the second ray? So this still has to be up in the air as to which one of these rays, subsidiary rays, represents an ashram of which only the nucleus exists. Okay, and under the second ray and through the effect of second ray central fire, all have at their center a second ray disciple. Now notice the way the term disciple is used. DK teaches us in this because all have at their center a master. So a master. And so this shows that the term disciple is used even to indicate a master. I think that's very interesting. The third ray has already 2 subsidiary ashrams. Now this is kind of, the word already is interesting. It implies some speed, or maybe or working ahead of schedule. Has already. Well, it depends on how we interpret that term. 2 subsidiary ashrams. What would they be? You know, can we guess that 3 sub 7 is important, and maybe 3 sub 2 are 3 sub 2 and 3 sub 7 organized? Certainly, the financial reorganization of the world is going to have to involve both the third and the 7th rays. And as far as general philanthropy, well, maybe that's a thing that's coming in the future. Obviously, the 3-3 exists because that's the major fire for the third ray ashram. Well, he's not telling us what these are. And of course, the interesting thing is, I could probably find a justification for all of them. We're told that the 5th ray has been phased out of full expression between the years 1950 and 2000 because man was getting ahead of himself in terms of knowledge, and we already see how advanced weaponry is being misused, or how the 5th ray capacities are being directed. towards the production of that which is destructive to the human race. Just imagine, biological warfare and weapons that are, really terrible. So there's the sense that all this work on atomic energy, which is continuing, is being done under the Third Ray Ashram in general, and so it's being done under the fifth subsidiary. And who knows, this was written some 70 years ago, what further ashrams have pulled together. We could speculate about this, but I'm not sure it's profitable to do exactly that. I would think, though, that when money is used for the purposes of goodwill and the general philanthropy for all of humanity, that it will be under the impulse of the second subsidiary of the third ray. The sixth has 4, and so on. Okay, so, well, for the Sixth Ray Ashram has probably been in existence for quite a while during the Sixth Ray age, and I'm thinking, about how much beauty has come forth in order to glorify the great ideal of God that was present, God in Christ present in the Sixth Ray age. I think I'm going to avoid speculation because I could probably find a reason why many of the subsidiaries could exist under the Sixth Ray. But this intrigues me, and so on. In other words, the other Ray Ashrams may have some subsidiaries, but DK is not telling us how many, and that can be the meaning of the word "and so on." So he's told us about the second ray, he's told us about the third ray, he's told us about the sixth ray, but we know that the fifth ray ashram is presently externalizing. And so is the first ray ashram externalizing, although we're going to learn here that there's nothing organized, I think, under the first ray. And the second ray ashram is externalizing. 1, 2, and 5 particularly are in a fairly advanced state of externalization, but maybe humanity's response to the divine will is such that the subsidiaries are not immediately needed under the first ray. The first ray is the only one, so all the others, this is interesting, the first ray is the only one at this time with no subsidiary fully functioning ashram. Well, of course, you have to be careful about what is said there. It could be subsidiary and not fully functioning. Let's just say a subsidiary could exist but not be fully functioning. In other words, it could be more embryonic and in process of formation. So we could have, there are these qualifiers here, subsidiary, fully functioning. It could be subsidiary and not fully functioning. So, but in any case, we learn that all the Ray Ashrams have at least one subsidiary, because the first Ray is the only one at this time with no subsidiary fully functioning ashrams. At least one subsidiary and fully functioning ashram. So that means that, let's take a look, the seventh ray must have at least one subsidiary and fully functioning ashram, covered by the word "and so on." The sixth has 4, subsidiary and fully functioning. The fifth has at least 1, and we're not told if there are more. Even the fourth ray, which is not an incarnation at this time, has to have at least 1 subsidiary fully functioning ashram. The third has 2. The second has 5 with 1 nuclear in a nucleus condition, of which the nucleus only exists. And the first ray, no subsidiary fully functioning ashram. So this is a work in progress. This is some sort of fulfillment which has not yet been reached. And this because the will aspect is as yet very little understood, and few initiates can meet the requirements of first ray initiation, and therefore, let's just say, functioning or formation, okay, how about that? Formation takes place on the basis of need. And if there are very few that need this, and a great variety of these first-ray types doesn't exist, then the subsidiaries do not have to be formed to meet the needs of a variety that does not exist. So the will aspect is as yet very little understood, and few initiates can meet the requirements of the first-ray initiation. And this, has to mean that in these various ashrams, there are subsidiary masters who work under the direction of the main Chohan, just as Master DK. He is, in a sense, a subsidiary master working under the direction of the Chohan Master, just thought of something, Master KH. Now, wow, 5 masters are working in Master DK's ashram. Okay, this is a hint. This is a hint. Because you know how it is that the third ray includes all the rays of attribute. So it is possible that he could be the director of the 2/3 ashram with Master KH the Chohan as the main Chohan. And that rays, the masters at least on rays 4, 5, 6, or 7, each of them heading up a subsidiary and, let's say, fully functioning ashram. We'll have to leave the question of ray 4 out of it for the moment. All those masters would be subsidiary to Master DK, because those rays of attribute would be incorporated into the third ray. Now, this leaves one out, of course, but at least that's a possibility, and it may be a hint as to, is it possible that there is a secondary master within the Master DK's ashram, just the way the Mahachohan has Paul the Venetian as the head of the 5. Let's see, wait a second. I think it's going to be necessary. Well, it may be necessary for me to take this up shortly. Yes, I'll have to take this up shortly. This is no reflection upon humanity. It is a question of divine timing and expediency, and Shamballa is not prepared for an influx of first-ray initiates. Would this leave too many knocking on the door of Shamballa, or would it require would it entail such a disturbance in humanity that Shamballa would have to respond? Ages must pass before this will aspect would have reached the stage of unfoldment and expression on the physical plane, through which the medium of mankind, and through the medium of mankind, which will warrant the fusing of 6 first-ray fires, the purest fires there are. This is fantastic. So, look, I'll tell you what, I have to say that this is the end of Rays and Initiations Webinar Commentary Program 18. I think I'm correct in that. Program 18, from page 387, and we haven't covered a lot of ground here. 387 to what? Okay, to 388. Not much. Okay, pages 387. 388, and we'll have the beginning of Rays and Initiation Webinar Commentary, Program 19 from 388 on. I'm going to bring this up, and what I want to discuss is the way, as Paul the Venetian reflects Master R, the Mahashohan, so maybe there is another master in Master DK's ashram, and then with the 4 subsidiaries. Okay, well, anyway, that really should have been put above, and I'm going to do that. Here. All right, friends, I have a lot to do this morning. I have time. I thought it said 50, 59. No, but it's 55. So, you see, I'm going to point to a particular chart, and you'll see a little bit what I mean. And let's see. Okay. And here we are. A-B diagrams, open, and let's go here. Okay, and go forward. And there it is. Notice how the Venetian master is head of the lower 4 masters, Serapis, Hilarion, Jesus, and the unknown 7th Ray master. I'm not sure how built up this is, because maybe at the time this was made, the master R is the Mahashohan, so this has to be an unknown master. So maybe, given Master DK as the head of the 2.3 ashram, he supervises 4, and maybe another master is involved with his ashram. Anyway, he says he has 5 masters involved with his ashram. The question is, what does he consider his ashram? Does he consider his ashram strictly the 2.3, or does he consider his ashram, which is the major Brahmic ashram in the 2nd Ray Ashram, does he consider that major Brahmic ashram as subsuming ashrams sub 4, sub 5, sub 6, sub 7? Anyway, this is speculation. It's just a really interesting idea that Master DK has 5 masters, he says, working in his ashram or cooperating in his ashram. Now, I kind of raced ahead there. So this is no reflection upon humanity. It is a question of divine timing and expediency. And we would say, no. That's not correct. I can't do that. Here we go. Divine timing, and notice the word divine, it means Shamballa, as originating in Shamballa. And Shamballa is not yet prepared for an influx of First Ray initiates. It would take a tremendous counterbalancing. So maybe we do not have proportionally. Maybe this is a cycle in which not so many First Ray souls are in incarnation. Ages must pass before the will aspect will have reached the stage of unfoldment and expression on the physical plane, and through the medium of mankind, which will warrant the fusing of the 6 First Ray fires. They all have their subsidiaries, and each major fire is surrounded by 6 others. The structure of the planes show us that. The whole idea of the hexagon with the central circle shows us that. And these are the purest fires. These are the very essence of fire. The purest fires there are. So these are the essence of fire. And we have to, and maybe it'll be the 7th root race before this happens, or maybe it will have to be the 7th round if such a round does occur for our particular planet. We don't know whether we can actually finish in 5 as Venus has, given our augmented, our boost from the solar angels, so to speak. but maybe it's more likely that it will take 7 rounds. Venus is extremely unusual in that respect, just as the Christ was unusual for his rapidity. Venus, as a planetary logos, has completed its process in 5 scheme rounds. Well, okay, that is it. And now I can sign off. So this program lasts approximately an hour, and I'll be getting into program number 19. All of this is so deep, and, you know, our approach to it can be speculative, and maybe speculation can occasionally invoke some intuition, some sense that, this is how it must be. So we'll see you before long with program 19, Rays and Initiations webinar commentary, second part of the book. Bye-bye.